Well, hello there, you faithful few, and welcome back to DMS Adventures, where it is a winter treat to have a little heat. Well, winter is here, yet we still would like to get out on a backpacking trip, even if it's just an overnight. But with the winter comes the crazy cold. And when you're cold, the only thing you want is to be warm. Now, I love the idea of hot tents. I mean, you get to buy another tent. The stoves that you get are super cool. But I've watched plenty of videos on that, and man, the work involved in getting that set up, the cost of the setup, then processing all of the wood, getting up every 2 hours to stick more wood in the fire to keep it going, to keep your tent nice and warm. It's just a lot of work that I'm not sure I'm A, willing to do, and B, the weight I'm not necessarily willing to carry. So with the extreme weight of the stove and the hot tent, I thought, well man, maybe you could just carry out a propane heater of some kind just to take the edge off inside the tent. So I went looking around and found the Lixada portable gas heater. But before I get into the Lixada, I have to mention that I did get a Dorsey brand first, but before they even shipped it, there was a recall on it and they canceled the order. So in dealing with gas stoves, I mean, that kind of put up a red flag for me. Then the Lexada brand looks almost identical to the Dorsey brand. So let me go ahead and show you what the heater looks like. So it comes with this little carry bag, which is nice. It's very thin, but it does the job. It's got a drawstring on it. And here is the heater itself. Pretty small. This thing only weighs about 10.5 ounces. Now on that Dorsey one that I mentioned, it came with a piezo igniter, and when I had to order another one instead, I wasn't paying attention and I got one that did not have the piezo igniter. So you do need a lighter in order to get this thing going. It also comes with a tripod, which is pretty handy. It folds down, pretty small, and then folds out, and it actually has 3 different locations on it for different sizes of canisters. So this is actually kind of a dual fuel system. You can use just a regular, camp stove canister. This is the larger one. I did have to modify this a little in order to get it to fit, but it did fit my small MSR canister just fine on the inner ring. Then this model also comes with an adapter. So it's a tripod built into a butane canister connector. And that would just be one of these that runs like stoves, different kinds of stoves. So you just line the can up to these little notches and plug it in, and there you go. And what I like about it is that once that canister is in there, it actually kind of acts as like a 4th leg to the tripod to keep it really steady. Now there's a couple things I'm interested in knowing about this heater. One is how long will it last on a big canister like this on low, how long it'll last on the butane canister, because this butane canister setup actually weighs a little bit less in total than these larger canisters. Then the other thing I'm interested in is if we run this thing in our tent overnight, will it kill us? Carbon monoxide is always an issue, so going off of some recommendations from my buddy Keith, the trail medic, he always stresses how important it is to make sure that you don't die with one of these things. I picked up this small, lightweight carbon monoxide detector. Just runs off of 2 AAA batteries and has a nice display to show the parts per million of carbon monoxide you have. So what we're going to do is we're going to set the heater up in the Maxfield 4 tent. We're going to run it on the canister fuel first. We're going to see how long it runs, whether or not it kicks off too much carbon monoxide. And in order to kind of keep the tent a little bit safe, we're going to use an oil pan and set the heater on the oil pan. So let's go fire it up. So here we are in the Maxfield 4. We've got our oil pan set up here with the heater on it. I've got some of those, 2 of those Go V thermometers set up, one outside in the shade to tell us what the temperature outside is, and then one in here in order to figure out whether or not the tent actually warms up with the heater running. So we're going to fire this up. We're going to let it run on low Now the estimate here is going to be about 6 hours of run time. So we'll see if that pans out or not. So we just turn the valve on. You can hear the gas going. Pull out our carbon monoxide detector. We'll just set that down here. So here we go, she's running. So it runs for a little bit, and this that main part, the center part in there, will turn bright orange. Then you know it's running good, and then I will turn the volume down, I'll turn the intensity down a little bit, as low as it'll go without shutting off. You can really feel that heat already. So it's showing up as bright orange now. Let's go ahead and turn her down. Okay, that sounds about as low as it'll go and still stay running. So we started at 11:51. So hopefully this thing will run till 5:30 or so, 6 even. So we'll come back and find out. All right, so it's been about 3 hours now, and the outside temperature here, according to the Govee thermometer, is 52 degrees. And the temperature inside the tent is 68 degrees. So we got about a 16-degree difference that's being provided by that heater. Now, let's head in and check to see if we're getting any reading on the carbon monoxide detector. All right, so you can see we got the heater going here, carbon monoxide detector right there, and the Govee thermometer right there on the ground. So let's check that carbon monoxide detector, see if we're getting a reading. It's a big negative, 0 parts per million. So that is fantastic. Can safely have a heater in here and just not have to worry about that particular issue. So we're still going to keep running the test to see how long that canister lasts. Like I said, right now we're still at 3 hours and hoping for another 3. Well, you faithful few, we are at the 5 hour and 20 minute mark. The heater is still going. However, I came out at about the 4.5 hour mark. It was barely running. And I opened the valve a little bit more, actually a lot more, and it got going again. And now it's starting to just run low again. I think the fuel's running out, so the pressure's running down, and so it's not running quite as well. So I'm thinking I'm probably going to call this at about 5.5 hours. Generally the temperature outside has been 45 to 50 degrees, so it didn't even really have to struggle against any cold temperatures to keep running, so it probably ran pretty efficiently. So we'll take a look at the 2 graphs, set them side by side over here. The one graph is from the Govee that was outside, and the other graph is from the Govee that was in here. And you can see right when it starts peaking, that's when I turned on the heater. And generally speaking, over a 4 hour period from 12 to 4, generally speaking, it stayed about 13 degrees warmer in the tent than it did outside. You can see right here where I believe the sun hit the Govee that was hanging in the tree, and so that spiked the temperature a little bit there. But on average, I think it shows 63-ish degrees for the Govee that was in the tent, and about 50 degrees for the Govee that was outside. So I'll take 12 degrees inside the tent any day. That's certainly going to take the edge off. Now, it's not nearly as warm as a hot tent would get, of course, but you have a lot of the benefits with not as much weight. And that entire time I checked it about 4 times, and there was never a reading for carbon monoxide on the carbon monoxide detector. So that's awesome. So the last test we'll do on it is with the butane can. Okay, so now it's time for the butane canister. So let's get this thing switched out. There's still some in there. Get the tripod adapter on here. So here is one of the notches. Here's the other notch, and there's this big notch in the can. So here we just stick the edge of the can into that notch on the bottom, then line up that notch with the tab, and then twist. And there you go. So we've got our Govee here. It says that it's about 40 degrees outside and about 46 in here. Got our carbon monoxide detector. Let's fire this up. All right, so got it fired up. We'll lower that down as much as we can, and then come back and check it later. Well, 5.5 hours later, and the butane fuel can has run out. So actually, I think the butane can ran a little bit better than the canister did. It ran more consistently. It ran a little bit longer, a good half hour to 45 minutes. Again, checked periodically on the carbon monoxide detector. Never got any reading on it. So we'll go ahead and take this apart now, and then I will wrap this up and give you my final thoughts. Well, let's wrap up our final thoughts here with the Lixada propane butane heater. Overall, I'm really happy with it. I think it performed very well. I like multiple things about it. One, the weight of this thing only being at 10.2 ounces. Then with the butane adapter and tripod, it only adds 3.4 ounces. So right there, you've got a portable little heater you can carry with you pretty easy for under a pound. I did like how the butane can performed a little bit better than the canister. However, we had some pretty warm temperatures here in the mid 40s. And so the butane is going to perform just fine since we are, above 30 degrees. Butane starts having issues when you get below 30 degrees. So if you are down in those lower temperatures, you may need to switch over to a butane propane mix or an isobutane mix in order to run this heater in some more extreme cold conditions. One thing I want to share that was pretty cool over here in this graph, you'll see where the heater was going on the inside and it had it up to say 70 degrees or so. I had to open up the vestibule in order to get in for doing a little bit of filming I was still doing on the Maxfield 4. And when I opened it up, I could feel the heat in there. Well, in the graph right here, you can see where the temperature did dip. And then after we shut it back up again, the heater reheated it right back up to, I think, 72 degrees or so. So even that late in the game, and this was at about the 4.5 hour mark, once we closed the tent back up, the heater did heat it back up again a couple of degrees. So we'll see how long this heater really lasts. However, for only 40 bucks, it's not that bad of an option to have a little bit of heat, a little bit more comfort in your tent when you're out on trail. Then to have the multiple options of fuel, whether the butane cans or the stove canisters of various different sizes, whatever you have available, you can use to get a little bit of heat. So if you have any questions about this Lixada heater, just drop them down in the comments below and I will answer them as soon as I can. Hey, I want to thank you so much for watching, and you all have a great day.